Hello, baby. Welcome back, guys, to the Avarice podcast, Avarice Trading Channel on YouTube. I got a confession to make. I fucked up. I skipped a step. Anybody who's been listening to these and following along knows that I usually start out by making my fresh cup of coffee, sitting down at the table, hit the bong, then we start the movie. I started making the cup of coffee on autopilot before I started recording, so I apologize sincerely. For those of you who aren't aware yet, this is going to be Scream 4. We're culminating the Scream franchise today. Feels kind of weird. I started with the Halloween movies, and that's about as big of a franchise as you will ever have to try to take on. So after going through 10 of those movies, doing Scream and only having 4 seems like a really short stop. It seems like I just started getting into the Scream movies and now I'm done with them, which I'm gonna have to get used to. I trained myself at the very beginning on one of the larger franchises, and so I kind of became accustomed to the consistency, and that's not gonna be there in almost any other circumstance. So it's good for me. I think after this, I'm probably going to do some more one-off type shit. Oh, by the way, get your movie ready if you're watching along. Scream 4. I'll chat you up for a little bit before I sit down, and then we'll start playing. I'll be commenting over the movie. You'll be able to hear it slightly in the background if you don't want to watch along, if you just want to minimize it if you're at work. Or I also release this in an audio-only version on the podcast. So if you're listening on there, yeah, and you decide you want to watch or not, whatever the fuck. Get your shit ready if that's what you're gonna do. I'm getting my stuff ready. You know how this goes. So, I got my coffee. Fuck, it's filled to the rim. Y'all don't even know. Oh, feels so good on my throat. So hot on my body. I spend a lot of time in solitude because of what I do for a living and my schedule. So going from not speaking very much during the day in any fashion to consistently recording 2-hour long podcasts and half-hour videos, etc., my throat was taking some abuse. It's starting to get used to it now, but the coffee helps. The warm coffee. Plus it helps. Keeps me up a little bit. You know how it goes. So as I was saying, starting to get into a minute ago, somebody commented on, I think his name was Winston. I forget your last name, dude. I'm sorry. I appreciate you. Thanks for watching and listening to my stuff. He commented on my Scream 3 review and told me about this app where I can see what search terms and what kind of saturation there is on certain movies or certain topics. And it'll give me a better idea of maybe some more unique type things that I can do to not just blend into the crowd, and where I can kind of go after this, because this is the last Scream movie. And I appreciate that. That was awesome of them to do. And I put it to use earlier, looked up a bunch of different things, gave me some ideas. It also made me realize that maybe I'm being too vague in my keywords, because the more vague you are in your search terms, the more stuff is going to fall into that search if people type in that search term. And so you really can't get buried in the crowd, especially if you're not a large channel. So to get very specific with it, you're going to be brought up in less searches, but it's going to be a more focused audience. You're more likely to get a hit of somebody that wants to watch your content if you do it that way. I'm getting a bit off track here, but I'm just trying to give you a little bit of time to get your shit in order. So I am now ready to take a pull off this. Go ahead and smoke along if you want to, and then we will watch the show. Movie, film, whatever you want to call it. I used to think it was so ridiculous when people referred to movies as films, and now I just caught myself doing it. It's a more respectful way, I guess, to say it, but it does come off pompous and almost like condescending. I don't mean to do it. I just adopted that when I started talking about. I don't know how it happened, honestly. I'm not proud of it. It's like the first time I caught myself saying hella. Okay, now we're pulling. Hella became like a, at least in the area I live in, became like a trendy hipster kind of word to say for high school kids. Somewhere around 2000, I want to say 4 or 5. And I had a girlfriend who would say it all the time, and it drove me nuts. But I just let her say. I never said anything to her. But then one day I was talking to my friend, and I said it, and of course, I couldn't see the look on my face, but I felt very sheepish. And he told me that he could tell by the look on my face that I immediately regretted that decision. Because we would talk shit about people who said hella. Well, this is hella that, and this is hella that, and then feeling hella good, so I'ma keep on dancing. I think I actually said hella on one of the last commentaries that I did. Shit happens. Anyway, get yourself buckled in because we are going to get ready to play this. Okay, so I will count down from 3, 2, 1, and then I will say play. And when I say play, push play. So push and play in 3, 2, 1, play. Hold on. Wait, no. 3, 2, 1, play. For some reason I didn't catch the first time. Hi, Mary Jane. My dog's got to come out for her obligatory introduction. Whenever I start recording these and talking, it wakes her up and she comes out here like I just got home from the bar and starts wagging her tail and doing her whole scene. So we got Pretty Little Liars Girl.
Did you pick a movie? Yeah. It was scary. Saw 4. Ugh, I saw that in theaters. It sucks. It's not scary. It's gross. And
The Saw movies.
you really feel.
I think I only ever watched the first one, and the first one was really original and great, but with horror franchises, it gets very bad very fast in most cases.
Whipping and blood spewing. You can keep texting. You're a Facebook stalker. You keep sending me messages. You know what?
Facebook stalker. So it's been 11 years since Scream 3. I don't know if... A lot of times what'll happen is you'll have somebody who's attached to a specific role, like Neve Campbell in the Sidney Prescott role, and they get kind of sick of it, and so they go do other things. And then a decade or two later, they really miss that spotlight, or maybe they need to earn a living, or maybe they're just ready to scratch the itch again, and they come back and do that role again. And so I don't know for a fact, but I feel like that's what happened here. Career slowing down. It's been 10 years. You know, you're not as tired of it. You're not jaded by it, and you've been being asked about it, so you decide to come back. So Neve Campbell is back in this. David Arquette's back in this. Courtney Cox is back in this. So I do respect them for that. A sequel this distant from the last one and this distant from the original that still maintains those 3 core characters, the same characters and the same actors and actresses, that is a feat in and of itself. But that might contribute to why it got stale. I haven't seen this movie all the way through in one shot ever, I don't think. So I don't know how this turns out, but I know that it got very stale in Scream 3.
It's from Stalker.
So he's stalking her through social media and on the phone in this.
Where are you going? To make sure the front door is locked.
I don't. That doesn't seem plausible. Like, if he's sending Facebook messages, those are coming from somewhere, and you would be able to trace that.
Just trying to scare you.
And I don't know how you could. So if she ends up dead and they look at her phone, you're going to be able to see.
I didn't open the door. No, Sherry, don't. No, don't. I'm scared.
Are these guys friends, or is she the older sister? The girl in the yellow looks much younger. Not much, but reasonably younger. That tree there, did they want it to look like Ghostface was standing there in the first shot? I think they did, because they did like a half-open door and then a cut, and it looked like he was standing there, and then the next cut, it's all the way open, and it's a tree. I'm already in the house.
What does it say? It says, I'm not outside. I'm right beside you.
You didn't see him standing there? Isn't that just an open room? There's two at the same time? I know what's going on here. I'm just playing along. Don't worry, I'm not that dumb. More blood!
That was so fucking stupid. Pure horseshit. The death of horror right here.
Sarah Marshall. I thought I'd forgot about her. Thanks a lot, Scream 4. Fuckers.
Kidding me, right? I guess now it would be Twitter. That makes more sense. Particular teens that are deconstruct horror movies. Ghostface kills them one by one.
That kitchen, though. Goddamn. How you guys afford this place? I like those lamps next to the TVs, too. My parents have those.
I like the scary movies. They're scarier. It's not aliens or zombies or little Asian ghost girls. There's something real about a guy with a knife who just snaps.
Yeah, but it's not the same guy every time. That's what gets hard to swallow.
I can do it. These people don't know when to stop. They just keep recycling.
That's. I can't think of another horror franchise that does it this way. Maybe somebody can comment and tell me if there's one I'm missing out on. I don't claim to be a guru. I don't claim to be the authority on scary movies or anything like that. There's a bunch of shit I've never seen before. I have huge gaps in periods of time, like right after my son was born, and other experiences like that and events that have caused me to miss a lot of movies. So there could be some shit that I am totally unaware of. But to my knowledge, this is like the only major horror franchise where the killer changes in every single movie.
Every time. You're kidding. I don't get it.
So it becomes, how much do you care about Sydney? Because and Dewey and Gail, but they're what we're attached to. We don't really, it's not like, in some of the Halloween movies, you start rooting for Michael. Like, he becomes somebody you love to hate. You like to see him destroy shit. I know that it's always the same Ghostface costume, but it's not the same person, and you don't have the same rapport with their character. So that was a commercial or a trailer for Stab 7, or the beginning of Stab 7, which had the beginning of Stab 6 inside of it. So the beginning of Stab 7 was Stab 6. They're going super fucking meta with this, which, I mean, they beat that horse already. I beat that bitch with a bat.
Where are you going? I told you I heard something. I know you're trying to scare me.
There's a lot of, like, trendy teen girl stars from this era in this movie. I don't know who this one is. I don't recognize her, but I definitely recognize her.
I left the window in my room open.
You would know.
Yeah.
Do you remember opening it? Like, what if it's been 2 months since you opened a window? This kitchen, though, it's way better.
Marnie? Who's this?
Marnie? So for some reason, I found this out just randomly by, I don't know what I was reading or if I was on IMDb, but I know what it was. I was looking up the voice actor who was Ghostface in the first movie and found out that he was Ghostface in the first one, the second one, and the third one. So the voice on the phone in this movie is not the original guy. I'm curious to listen and see if I can notice any discrepancies because I haven't been paying attention so far.
You really should direct horror films.
When I said that I hadn't seen this all the way through in one shot before, I don't know if I've ever seen the ending, but I've seen the beginning a few times and at least into the middle a couple times. So this part, I'm pretty aware of what's going on, at least up until here.
You can't talk like Ghostface. Can you? Who is this?
It is a little bit different, but it's a pretty good impression.
Trevor?
Voice isn't as deep and he's rushing it more. He's talking much faster than the original Ghostface did.
GPA and 135. What did you do this morning? That's not fun.
Why are you're stationary in the middle of the kitchen? Find a weapon. Woof. That takes some strength. What are your guys' feelings on their need or their feeling on never changing the costume or the look of Ghostface? I suppose since the person dressing up in the costume changes every time, it'd be hard to sell if they also change the costume because it's just a different thing now. But they could do subtle things. Maybe they did do subtle things I'm unaware of. They're definitely not as drastic as the changes to Jason or Michael. Or even Chucky. Chucky ends up all fucked up towards the end. I don't even know that I've ever seen all of the Child's Play movies. I know that I've seen at least the first couple, and then like Bride of Chucky. There might be a couple in there I missed. I wouldn't say I missed them, but I've never seen them. Is this going to be the opposite of a... Everybody in the world who's ever operated an automatic garage door before knows that it wouldn't have closed on her like that. All she would have had to do is be like 8 inches off the ground and go in the beam, and it would have opened right back up. So I was criticizing before about the app and all that shit. That was a movie within the movie. So you can't actually criticize that storyline because it's just bullshit. But that I can criticize. What is this fucking bullshit song? Is this what teenagers were listening to in 2011? It doesn't seem as culturally relevant as some of the scores and songs in the other movies. Nev Campbell, all grown up now.
What do you think? Well, I guess today.
It's strange how when... No, never mind. We'll just go with this. She's written a book now, and she's doing a book tour, and she's on the last stop of her book tour, which is in Woodsboro, which, if you don't know, is the town she's from, the scene of the original movie. We got Dewey back. He's completely recovered from all severed nerve damage from Scream 1. Why? Like, did he just get tired of playing a handicap guy? He didn't want to hold his arm like that anymore? Because they just wrote that out. After Scream 2, he's just not that way. He's just fine. Seems happy. He's the sheriff now. He's married to Gail. You probably drive by his house multiple times a day. You would know the sheriff lives there. Unless you're dumb as fuck, that would be one of the spots where you're prepared to go slower. You all know where the speed traps are and where there's a higher risk of getting caught speeding and where you can let it loose a little bit. I can see your dog, your titties on my chin. She's is she the girl from Remember the Titans? Oh, awesome. Good for Trevor. Nice RAV4. Is that all-wheel drive? How much you want to sell it for? Does she have a bunch of, like, barrettes and shit in her hair? Why? It's really short. It's like a boy's haircut, and she's got things in it. I don't get it. Are you holding it out of your face? Put your fucking seatbelt on right now. I heard somewhere that if you get pulled over and your passenger's not wearing their seatbelt and they're an adult, they get the ticket and you don't. I've never looked it up to see if it's true. But that would be optimal. Seems like true justice. Except for people on motorcycles, no fucking seatbelt, not strapped to that bitch at all. They could run into something and turn themselves into a projectile and fly into a crowd of people. But you can get a ticket for not wearing your seatbelt inside of a cage, essentially. Granted, you can fly it through the windshield, but what's the percentage of times that happens compared to somebody flying off a motorcycle? I'd imagine that they fly off the motorcycle damn near 100% of the time. And they've got a helmet on, which isn't going to really protect them from a concussion or anything like that. And it's going to turn them into a missile. They started... there's an obvious difference between the age of the actors or the actresses playing the teenagers in this movie and the age of the actors and actresses playing the teenagers in the first movie. In the first movie, they look like adults. Like, you look at Rose McGowan and you're like, God damn, she's hot. And now I'm looking at them and I'm like the main character, she looks real young teenager-ish to me. She looks like they actually started having younger people, or at least they got better at casting younger looking people to play the high school kids. So, like, I'm seeing this girl and I'm like, damn, you're cute. But the main character girl, she's like adorable, but she's not like sexy. She looks too young to me. She's like a little girlish. Maybe she's under 18 and I'm right on the head with that. I don't know. It's interesting how as you get older, what you're attracted to adjusts with your age. And it seems like it's not a conscious choice. It just seems to happen as part of your, I don't know if it's your biology or what the fuck the deal is, but I remember being like 15 or whatever, and I'd see somebody in a movie and I'd be like, I wouldn't necessarily go out of my way to be like, oh, they're ugly or they look old, but I wouldn't see them as sexy. And then now I'll go back and watch like the same movie and I'll be like, God damn, she's hot. And it's just because I'm now in that age bracket where I line up with that character. Does that make sense? I guess that's appropriate. That would be what you would want. But it's just kind of confusing how it happens completely without you being aware of it. We've had huge leaps in technologies. Technologies? I guess that's a word. Since the last Scream. There's Macaulay Culkin's little brother. So now they have Twitter and Facebook, and he's got cameras doing internet streaming on his head. I don't know how reliably you could have done that, or how long the battery would even charge in that fucking thing. Did I say large? How long the battery charge would last on that fucking thing? Probably not very long, but I think it would have been possible if he had a lot of money. Oh, we're gonna make the boyfriend look like the psycho. This movie feels like an attempt to me to bring back the old cast and have them introduce a new cast, and then we're gonna try to like rebirth this thing, not with an official reboot where we go back to the beginning and replace the actors and actresses with new people playing the same characters, but instead just kind of introduce the new generation of the same characters and try to phase it out that way. That's what it feels like to me on the surface. Would that actually scare you? That's like what you do to scare a little kid. Plus, if you actually wanted to fight, you just shoved your chin in his face with your hands down. Bitch slap you. I was talking over the scene where Gail's sitting at the computer and she looks like she's had plastic surgery. But no, that just hit me when I saw her walking in. She looks like she's had plastic surgery, but she's sitting at the computer and she's got writer's block. She has no idea what to write about. And now she's shown up at Sydney's book thing because she saw her on TV. I'm wondering if maybe she's jealous or if she just wants to catch up with her. Are both you guys dyeing your hair black now? Excuse me. Going along what I was just talking about earlier. Excuse me. When I was 16, if you'd have showed me this movie, I would have told you that, or asked me if I thought Neve Campbell was sexy in this movie, I'd have told you no. But now, I think she's very attractive. But I'm in my 30s. That blonde cop, too. Damn. I missed that. Oh, there was a call traced back to these coordinates. Oh, we've got the OC. I don't know what that guy's name is. I just know he was on the OC. I never watched that show. Fuck that show. Damn, I was super harsh on that. I never watched the OC, literally. Never saw any of it, so I have no idea what it was about. I just knew it was the thing that all the douchebag preppy kids in high school were into, and I wasn't feeling it. Oh my god, did you watch the OC last night? No, I was fucking washing dishes at McDonald's. Shove it up your ass. If I hadn't been at McDonald's washing dishes, I wouldn't have been watching that. Got better things to do with my time. What if I claim to not have an on-off switch? What if I break it? Mike and Marley were married last night? So Dewey gets to be the sheriff despite not having been a cop for a significant period of time. I don't know if that's how that works. I don't know if you can leave being a cop and then just come back and get a promotion. Unless he's been back for so long that he got a promotion because of that, but that doesn't seem likely either. After he got stabbed in the first one, in the second one, he doesn't appear to be a cop anymore. If he is, he's like on vacation. I don't know. And then the second one, or the third one, he's definitely not a cop because he's doing, he's a hanger-oner in Hollywood, hanging around with that bitch. So in this one, he's the sheriff.
Deputy? Yeah.
Sydney kind of looks like the hottest high school principal in the world. Betty Crocker, you look more like Betty Crocker than that bitch. She looks like Tomb Raider on Halloween.
Yes.
Yes, the whole world knows about it before me. She wants to be a part of the investigation, Sheriff. Hang on. Are you familiar with the phrase?
I think that Gail is, yeah, she's upset about her waning spotlight. She misses it. She wants to be in the middle of it again.
The book on this. The Woodsboro murders.
It's,
by Gail Weathers.
if I had to guess, I would say that they're going towards it being a red herring. They kind of want to make her look like maybe she's desperate to create this story again, because it's her most successful ventures have been writing about these murders in Woodsboro. So she could cause it to happen again so that she would have another reason to write a successful book.
This is what I'm good at doing.
Ladies, don't cut your fucking face up and get your lips pumped up with shit. And, like, her mouth looks too wide now, and her just looks stretched out. It's not overboard. She didn't go full boat on the plastic surgery, but I can tell she's had some done. And it doesn't, regardless of how much you think it makes you look better, it's only to a stranger. Anybody who's ever seen you before goes, why do you look different? You're just stretched out. So anybody who already knew you is immediately going to go, oh, your plastic surgery face. They're not going to go, oh my God, you look so much better. No, it's not. Once I can tell you've had plastic surgery, that's the judgment. Not whether or not you look good. It's just, oh, you got plastic surgery in your face. Not corrective plastic surgery. I'm talking about elective, pumping up your lips, stretching your face, putting extra fat in your ass. That's all bullshit.
Does that mean that I'm not going to live as long as these two?
Just,
Here's that I'm going to be next. I shouldn't.
That's not what he said.
Afraid that's not possible.
but nobody thinks you're everyone's a suspect. I'm sorry.
And it was evidence in your car.
Sydney wants to leave town, but they won't let her because she's everyone's a suspect.
24 hours.
God damn, I miss Randy. It's nice having Dewey around at this point because you can put him into that sheriff role and everybody's like, oh, yay, he became the sheriff. But if you listen to my last commentary on Scream 3 or watched my review, I proposed that maybe we shouldn't have had so much Dewey and Gale. And that it gets a bit stale, their relationship, readdressing them fighting with each other, whatever the fuck they do. Separating, coming back together, the fake Dewey deaths. Randy was a more unique and vital character to what Scream originated as. Randy in the first one was the horror fan. He was the one that they used to explain the rules. And when you talk about the unique elements of Scream 1 and what made it so awesome, he's one of those elements. It's not that there was a goofy cop and a reporter that started a relationship. And anything that was unique about those characters is lost even more in the next one. So my point being that having Randy around it, I really feel like Randy and Sydney should be married by this point. Or maybe Sydney marries, I also didn't want Cotton to die, so maybe Sydney marries Cotton. That'd be kind of weird. He was fucking her mom. Well, her dad did that, and maybe she has daddy issues. She should. Her dad was a traveling businessman like that.
Small town. Small town. Not much to write about.
You two okay?
I read somewhere once. That's one thing.
Maybe Gail needs to change up her writing style. Why does she have to always write about external events?
They get better.
She doesn't have thoughts not unrelated to murders.
Page 220.
Maybe she should write a book about writing a book. In a movie about making a movie. Oh.
Nice to see you, Judy.
Is there a little bit of like weird sexual chemistry going on between these two here?
Rock up.
Gail and Nev Campbell look very similar, just how they dress them up in this movie and their hairstyles. Nev being much cuter and I believe younger. I'm not saying those two are correlated. In this case, they probably are. But it was a toss-up in Scream 2. But by Scream 3, Nev was the cuter one.
No match.
But I think she's probably like 10 years younger.
You don't even know how else to do your best at. That's like being on top shelf.
This is what I was talking about. She's a recreation of Sydney.
No right.
He's a recreation of Billy.
That's true.
I think he's even more sketch than Billy was, though. But
Trust you.
I'm pretty sure he ends up not being involved. So they turn the volume up to 11 because they want you to guess that it's him, because it's ultimately not going to be. But if you listen to what I just did there, I don't know for a fact that it's not him. I'm pretty sure my first time watching this, I went, oh, they're giving us an obvious red herring with the boyfriend. They're not going to do that exactly again. It just doesn't make sense to me. And he's too over the top. Billy was just crazy enough where if you go back and watch it, you go, yeah. But the first time you watch it, you kind of want to believe that he didn't do it. This guy is trying to make you think that he's a scary character. And he's probably not. Standing there like Michael Myers in the fucking shadows.
You don't remember. Sorry?
What?
We went to high school. Judy Hicks. We had the same homeroom.
I never had a homeroom. You're mistaken. That was somebody else.
Boy. You were Tiger Lily.
This girl is obsessed with Sydney.
A long time ago. It's okay. You had a lot of stuff. Well, it's nice to see you again, Judy.
They let cops have their shirts open in the front like that? Without an undershirt? You look like you're trying to be sexy. I don't think they let you try to be sexy when you're a cop. Then again, who's to judge what's trying to be sexy? What's his first name? Anderson. Fuck. God damn it. What is his first name? Is it Carl? I don't think it's Carl. Anyway, Mr. Anderson is one of the cops along with the OC guy. Yeah, it feels like kind of weird casting moves there, but whatever. Oh. Has that situation ever occurred in life? It has to have, but I never knew any girls who would sit alone together on a bed like that and watch a zombie movie and laugh at it. Don't you guys go out and party or anything? What are you doing? Is it a school night?
Should be all right. Oh, now, okay. Do you want to come up?
Oof. I know that that's a famous movie that they're watching. I've never seen it. I couldn't even tell you what it's called. It's like something of the dead.
Speaking.
It's not my brand of comedy.
It's the worst invitation I've ever heard, Joe. Speaking of stab, you heard where the stab-a-thon's gonna be yet?
I would have much rather looked at your butt. That was a pretty non sequitur. I was just looking at her walking around in her bra there, and I was like, I'm not really a boob guy. She has pretty small boobs. I'd rather she was like just walking around with no pants on. That'd be more appealing to me if I had my druthers.
I can barely hear you, Trevor. Oh, all right.
You can tell that the guy is doing the voice. He's making it. He's forcing it. It's not as natural to him as it was the other guy. So it comes off as a loud whisper.
Whisper.
She just said whisper to me.
What?
The last guy didn't have to do that. He would just speak, and it would come out the right way. I don't know how that sounded when I just said it, but you know what I mean? It was more the guy's natural voice. He wasn't trying to force it by doing this whisper effect. He was just speaking.
You do know there are cops all over this house.
See, these elements are still played out. The telephone conversation shit. And they've already used up all their good phrases for the most part. So the gut you like a fish, which is from the original, and that was good. But all the things of that ilk that they do in the future it's just boring.
Liar.
I didn't say your closet. I was pretty close. I didn't know that was for sure what he was going to say, but I knew that this was coming. Frankly, I expected it. Ooh, through the hand. Defense wound. They're going to be able to tell she was murdered now, bro. She's got defense wounds. You're going to have to, cut up the body or something. But yeah, I could see this coming because Sydney's in that house. We can kind of get the fact that Sydney's not going to be the main character in this movie. She's her cousin or her niece, whoever that girl is the new main character. And there's the other friend. So when she's on the phone talking about being in the closet and where they're showing this girl getting dressed over on the other side, I could tell that she was going to be the one that got killed. It just made more sense because the movie isn't far enough along for this to be like a final showdown. And there's 3 girls in this house. Or the other house. It'd be harder to tangle with that situation. Maybe you're like, no, you're just doing revisionist history after you've seen it. You didn't know. I don't like the guts sitting. Those were bad looking guts. This is 15 years after the original, and the guts look way worse. How did you manage that?
Why didn't you come for me? You got the balls for that?
As if somebody watching the movie is going to look at that and be like, those are bad guts. They're missing some stuff. Just put a pile of ground beef there. Audience doesn't know what actual guts look like. That was decent. I'm going to cut your eyelids in half so you don't blink when I stab you in the face.
Stay right there. Do not look, okay?
I always liked that. I think I made it up, but I would tell people that I was going to put fish hooks through their toes and hang them from the ceiling. Could you get a fish hook through a toe? The little ones you probably can. Big one would be harder, but you gotta. If you don't nail the big one, the little ones are going to have a hard time supporting that weight, I think. Ugh. Makes my foot hurt just thinking about it. How do you know he's a he? That's so sexist. Unless you felt his dick. Then again, nowadays, having a dick doesn't mean that you're a he. All right, but back then it did. That was still true then. Oh, now I gotta show up and have a totally different reaction. Oh my god, I don't even know what's going on here. Anthony Anderson. Got it. I know that there's no video element to this, so you can't tell, but I didn't look that up. It's just when he walked into the room that second time it hit me. For some reason, the first time I couldn't grasp onto it. It's like if you were on the monkey bars in the dark and you couldn't find the next bar. I just couldn't quite figure out where it just wasn't there. Then somebody turned the light on. I went, "Oh, Anthony."
I'm sorry about what I said.
No, you're not, but that's okay.
What the hell happened? I saw him go into that yard 2 houses down right before.
And I circled around.
Dude's kind of over the top there, yeah. What the hell? It's not very believable. Did he get too used to doing comedies, or is he just not that great of an actor? No offense, man. I mean, I've never done acting. Who am I to judge? Well, I guess I watch plenty of movies. I can observe with my eyes who's doing better in the movies. But that scene right there, the acting just kind of stood out as not good.
Adds a day of remembrance as Eddie Fitzgerald. Olivia Morris, who actually never grew up with me, is dead. So is Daniel.
This is what happens when you become addicted to creating content. You get excited that there was an event you can create content about, and you don't actually take any time to absorb the event. You're just covering it. It's like, I imagine if you get up into the ridiculous amount of, 50 million subscribers on YouTube, how do you decide when you're going to take time off from putting into that investment? How do you not just make videos and shit all day long? It would be a hard thing to manage time-wise, for at least for me with my personality. I've starting to do these commentaries and these videos and working it in with all my other stuff has like broken my brain, because now I'm like addicted to it. Whenever I have a night off or an opportunity that I can try to work in, excuse me, recording something, I do it. I've even ignored going to the gym a few days. Actually, for like a week and a half. I've ignored going to the gym. So in place, I've done recorded videos or commentaries. So I need to check myself a little bit on that. I can't run wild with it. But I can see how if you were uber successful with it, because right now I'm just doing it to do it. But if you were having uber success, it would be really hard to pull back and not just keep feeding the beast. You got to find that happy medium maintainable pace and not let other elements of your life slip and ignore things. No. Did you read my book? Wait for the movie. Aren't all the stab movies the movie? They're not gonna make a.
There's all those little downtrodden fucks that just need a light at the end of their tunnel so they don't jump off a bridge.
They're not gonna make a movie about her life when the stab movies are already about her life.
I won't be needing you anymore.
The assistant girl's cute too, but she's kind of baby faced. Hospital main entrance. Uh-oh, the Bowfinger dog's running around in high heels in the parking garage again. You're gonna regret having ruffled shoulders today. I don't know why, I just wanted to say it. Did you have that pearl necklace before you went down? Oh. Sorry, I just snapped my fingers at my dog. She's sitting over here licking her fucking paws for like 20 minutes, and I can't stand to hear the sound anymore. This killer has everybody's phone number. And apparently has their number blocked. Doesn't show up on anybody's shit.
Are you writing this down?
Yes,
I don't know about you guys, but when I get a call from an unfamiliar number on my phone, I pretty much never answer it unless I'm expecting a call from a number that's probably unknown. Like, you know, if your car's at Les Schwab or something like that. So I think in the real world, these calls would not even be answered most of the time. I don't know if it's deserted, but it's dark. The voice is definitely not as good. I'm also paying attention to it, though, and comparing it. If you just kind of let it play out and don't think too much about it, you might be able to let it pass. Did he fuck with her car? Because this almost never happens with modern cars. And it's... Oh, he did. Okay. That's the kind of shit in cliched old horror movies that you get tired of, is their car never starts when they need it to. They can never get the thing unlocked, or all that shit. If you think about how many times in your life you've gone out, gotten in your car, and started it, and it's worked, compared to how many times, if ever, it hasn't started right up. It's such a negligible percentage that it's almost not worth measuring. They basically always start. They were, however, less reliable back in the 80s. You can't really say that they're, as a general rule, all more reliable than they used to be, because they start tinkering with shit and they fuck it up sometimes. So there's certain models and years that are better than ones that are newer, just because they nailed it for some reason. Everything aligned perfectly at that point. Huh. I was convinced that this girl was up to some shady business. I don't know why I thought that, but I was wrong.
Let's say about that. So, taking questions, please. Yep.
Any comment on the fact that these killings seem to resemble the pattern of the original Woodboro murders?
Later. As I was saying, my officers are part of.
She's just trying to thrust herself back into this again.
We are very close to bringing this whole situation under control.
This is like a... Oh. Hmm. It was alright looking, but those sparks were kind of fake.
All under control, huh, Sheriff?
Oh, pardon me. What a rush.
Gale.
He's the sheriff. He has a responsibility, you cunt. And you're gonna leave him pretty soon in real life, so... Cinema Club, huh? Hey, get that H2 poster off the wall. How fucking dare you?
And let me just say, to our guest, City Prescott's, it's an honor.
Just going to the high school cinema club?
I guess. This
His boyfriend, dude, was looking at her jealous, like,
Everybody will be doing something.
looking at her with envy.
Component the killer is missing. Wait, what do you mean? Well, you want
See what I mean about becoming addicted? This kid is, like, recording or has his camera on his head.
slash renovation.
Always.
And you film them all real time, and then before you get caught, you upload them into cyberspace, making your art as immortal as you. Not to implicate him.
So who do you think is behind that murders?
Well, it's a stab fanatic, clearly. We're working on this for Shriekland and Mark Scrape.
So they were talking about how you could stream the killing of your victims, and then it would be uploaded instantly. Yeah, some shit like that.
You gotta have an opening sequence, blows the doors off, that looks like flashy music video direction, and the kill's gotta be waiting for the stream.
Modern audiences get savvy to the rules of the originals. So the reversal becomes a new thing.
So he would have to have, the school would have to have Wi-Fi, and he would have to have his headset linked into it, and it would have to be
So why are you
really good Wi-Fi.
Remake.
The original staff structure is pretty fair.
2 kids killed in a house when their parents are away.
And then the school's hot chick, savage beyond recognition.
We all know where it goes from there.
party?
Exactly. Party. Guaranteed third act main cast bloodbath.
Fingers crossed on some nudity for a change.
They're kind of dissecting the plot lines of the original story and where they think it's going to go from here.
Devathon?
The movie marathon. 7 stabs back to back. We do it every year.
Is tonight?
That's a pretty cool idea, but you would definitely get fucking tired of it. I tell you right now, if I had to watch just these movies back to back to back,
Sure we're not the only.
for one, that's an 8-hour day.
So where is this certain
Watching Scream 1, Scream 2, Scream 3, Scream 4.
No.
If you were going to pay me, I would do it, but by the end of it, I would be so fucking sick.
Really?
I definitely wouldn't want to talk about it.
Q&A.
And the whole party, like, it would lose its luster very quickly. And I don't know that I would recover from that within a year and want to do it all over again. It would feel like a punishment after the first time. And at this point, there's like 7 stab movies. That's a lot of movie watching in one day. It's got to be on a weekend.
But you know they're just saying that because they really have no freaking idea how you feel.
Not necessarily. Sometimes they're just saying that to get you to shut up.
I'm so sorry about that.
Are you really, though?
I'm sorry about your publicist.
So many brunettes in this movie.
People staring at you.
Like her, Nev, and Courtney Cox seem to have like the exact same hair color and similar hairstyles. Hers is more like Courtney Cox, and Nev's is kind of different. She has the bangs thing going on.
What I do and I try not to think about me.
I take my vitamins and I say my prayers, and all you little Hulkamaniacs.
I'm rested. It works out. I saved my life last night. I mean, I know we're family, but everything on me makes me wonder. And
I wonder, wonder, ooh, I do. What's in a wonder bra? I'm trying to listen to as much of they say as I can, but without leaving awkward silences in, and it's kind of hard to accomplish. Because if I have it too loud, too much of it's going to get onto the audio recording and I'm going to get flagged. So I got to find this like happy medium. So if it seems like I'm not talking enough about what's going on in the movie, it's because I don't know it off memory, and I'm not able to follow along as closely listening because I'm talking. That would be fucked up to look out of your bedroom window across the street and see the murder scene where your friend died. She's going to the Stabathon. There's this many people in the town that want to go watch that movie. Oh, excuse me. Oh. So this is like the polar opposite of what they do with the Halloween movies, where everybody in Halloween in Haddonfield is anti-Halloween. Here in Woodsboro, where the Stab movies originated, everybody is gung-ho Stabathon. When did this start? Because these kids aren't that old. Were they like 7 years old when the first Stab movie came out? And where's the older people that have been fans since the beginning that want to watch the movie? Why is it all teenagers? There's definitely not this many teenagers in that one small town and school that are interested in this horror franchise that much. I live in a much bigger place and went to a much bigger school, and I couldn't have found a crowd of people this big to come to a Screamathon or a Halloween-a-thon. Third annual, okay. That's why there's no older people there.
Oh my god, they're that Harlow character right now. Ready to drink every time someone screams the word.
They've made up their own drinking game to it. That's pretty cool. This is definitely more fresh and unique than the third one was. So far, it's a better movie. This is Gail wearing a ghost face camera. I'm Gail wearing a ghost face mask, and she's planting cameras around because I guess she thinks that the killer is going to be at the Stabathon. I think she's suspecting these kids because they seem to have a little bit too much knowledge, but they're like the new Randys. Those could have been some great interactions if Randy was still in this, except for you wouldn't have the kids explaining as much because Randy would be able to do it. But having the interaction between these young horror movie fans that are obsessed with it and Randy, who was that way when he was their age, that would be cool.
New work in progress, chapter 1. When I moved to Wood-
Just compare how young these kids look in this movie compared to Jamie Kennedy as Randy in the original, where he was 27 years old. Oh, somebody just fucked with her camera. They're turning all the cameras away. or covering them. So they're either about to do some dirt or they're baiting you. They want you to come fix them and they're going to do something. You know it was somebody wearing that mask, but that could be anybody there.
The kids to the stab-a-thon. There's an old abandoned.
It's not like the killer, the actual Ghostface, is the only one who has that mask. In these movies, everybody has the mask. Anybody who wants it can get it.
This party is all about the stab movies. Come on. What can you get?
How? What can you get?
Now I heard him say it.
Wow, it's so meta. They're even going to address meta-ness in the meta movie. It's meta, 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 meta.
Forget it. Thanks for having faith in me. Thanks for my equipment.
Is this your guys' actual breakup? Did you film it? I wonder if it makes noise like that when I scratch my chin. I didn't even think about that. I don't even know you, and I dislike you already. Does Heather Graham get paid every time this is shown? I wonder if they reviews... I wonder how that works. Like, I wonder if it's ever in the contract that they reserve the right to use any of the footage in future sequels, and you only get compensated for it the one time. She definitely gets a credit, though, right? How does Gail not know that this is an obvious bait? They did it almost immediately after you set the cameras, so they were watching. And they looked at the camera before they put the last one down. So they're definitely in the vicinity. So they're either planning on killing all those kids, or they wanted you to come in there and fix your camera so they could throw you over the balcony or some shit. And this is twice within one podcast already that my dog has come out. Like, again, like I just got home from the grocery store and she's excited to see me. I've been here all day. She's holding that camera in an awkward way. It doesn't seem natural. And there's somebody else videotaping her. We've done this before and won. It's a lot of one. A lot of Scream 1. I know they're retreading that territory and they're addressing that it's somebody trying to recreate that, but just because you come out and say it doesn't mean that it makes it good to watch. Recreating iconic scenes is one thing, but just recreating the idea that there's a camera in a place where a murder is about to take place and somebody sees it on a monitor out in a van and then tries to run in and save the day. That's not a pivotal enough scene in the first one to have it recreated that way. If they even realized they were it doesn't even seem like they did it on purpose. It seems like bad writing. Not because it's not plausible, but just because it's retreading. That's something you already did. You're going to copy yourself? Turn yourself into the cliche?
There's a webcam sitting up there. It's watching me.
It was much nicer than my cameras.
He's making me.
Which isn't that much different from the other ones, except for it would be an actual movie. But Mickey was filming too. Billy and Stu referred to it as making their movie. Everybody thinks so. And then in the third one, they're making Stab 3. That's the context, the backdrop that Scream 3 is set against is Stab 3 being made. And that killer was the director of Stab 3, so he was both literally and figuratively making his movie.
Decade new rules. You know, these days, you might come back on me dead. Okay, yeah. What we doing? Shit. Yeah. Take this one.
Oh, shit. See, so they address the cliche in that way that the guy who goes out on the patrol or, you know, goes out to check the perimeter usually ends up getting it. So that leads me to believe that Mr. Carl Anthony Towns Anderson is going to actually die first. I saw it coming before they even addressed that he... Then again, I don't know how early in the conversation he addressed it. I just noticed once I stopped talking and he was getting out of the car.
Perkins, is there a window open on your last perimeter check?
What, I'm fucking not allowed to open the windows of my own house? Uh-oh, dog barking. Must be something sinister. That dog sounded far away. So it's barking at something that's far away. Why are you looking in the other direction close by? Like dogs have radar. Something's in my radar! Oh, I have seen this part. He's fucking with him, huh? Yep. I've got a mirror at home. I've seen the look on my face before. I wonder if that's actually possible. Can you stab a knife through somebody's forehead like that? That cleanly? Without, like, having any, like, blunt force trauma? I guess if it's a sharp enough knife and you go smooth enough and hard enough. That's what she said. Smooth and hard. No, it's okay. It's not that funny. Nev Campbell's Canadian, so I'll give her a break for drinking tea instead of coffee. Appreciate if she would drink coffee like a real American, though. Why don't you just paint a rebel flag on your truck?
Sorry. I just got from this store. You're shopping? Stress buster.
My buddy once told me a story. Back when he was in high school, there was a truck that had the tailgate. The entirety of the tailgate was painted to be a rebel flag. And apparently the person who drove the truck was a douchebag. If you hadn't guessed that already. And they stole his tailgate off of his truck and buried it halfway in the ground. And then made a tombstone, a makeshift tombstone that said, "Here lies the grave of the body of the rebel flag," something to that effect. It wasn't as funny when it was coming out of my mouth as I thought it was when it was in my head. I'm you. I'm your split personality. You've been doing this to yourself the whole time. Now she's called Gail Riley. Surprised she didn't go with a hyphen. She should be Gail Weathers Riley. Oh. This one's a little bit shorter than the other ones. The first three are all almost exactly 2 hours. And this one's like 150, which doesn't seem like a significant difference, but when you record in commentaries, it's noticeable. So the boyfriend and the cousin are gone. Oh, my back. My neck. My back. My neck and my back. I want 150,000. Man, you know how much you can get for a fall in the stove? Hey, Smokey back here taking a shit. I ain't gonna tell anybody else. I'll get the back, you get the front. Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about stabbing hunting knives through the door over again. We've done this scene 1,000 times, but we're gonna do it one more time. Just kidding, 10 more times, then maybe one more time. Sorry. I kind of feel like that's how Scream gets. They start playing around too much with the repeating of themselves and cliches, and then creating their own cliches and not realizing it and still steering right into them. Gets to be a little bit of a shit show. Let's hide somebody or on the other side of something. A wall, a door, you name it, and have that hunting knife stab through the other side. We have not seen that enough times. Very little variation in the weapons, too. Like I said when I was doing this is Halloween reviews and commentaries. Excuse me. I've heard people bitch about Michael using the scalpel for the majority of Halloween 2, which I would agree with if there were only 2 movies, or say 3 movies. But there's 10 movies, and he uses a knife, a butcher knife, plenty throughout the franchise. So I like the change of pace and having the scalpel in that movie, because now, as a part of a total picture, it fits in there nicely. My point being, maybe a little more variation in the weaponry for Ghostface. Just something to make it feel new and interesting. Because at least at this point, the in-between stuff with the kids, etc., is more interesting than when Ghostface shows up. Other than getting to watch the kills and see how they did that and shit. When he shows up, I just go, okay, this is gonna be like, it doesn't have that. Oh my fucking bum 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 bum. It doesn't have that feeling.
Play another base first.
Cut her hands and
Charge that one between the system.
What's this Culkin called? Their first names are all off the wall. Macaulay and Kieran and... Not Kieran, Kieran. What's this guy's name? Is he in anything else? Oh, her name's Kirby. Girl's in her name Kirby? That threw me. I thought the boyfriend's name was Kirby. So she was at that house.
know you found the antiquarian. It's invitation only.
Invitation. Jump.
There's a party in my pants. And everybody's coming.
You sent me a text message. After party at Kirby's house.
What do you mean from my phone?
Who says the message part? Who says you sent me a text message? Especially teens. You sent me a text. That's what you say. See? I didn't text you. I didn't text message you. I did not send you an intercellular satellite communication device message. Okay, John? Now take your wannabe throwback retro rebel ass the fuck out of here before we get some real thugs in here to show you what's what. Okay? I'm going to call some friends to come up in here, and they're going to make everybody cry.
What happened to Kate?
She was stabbed.
What about Jill?
I'd like to see more characters in movies like this that are just ready to face the problem head up. Like, sit with your back against the wall in a chair, have an axe, a gun, a bat, a knife, the best that you can come up with, right there available at you, and just sit and wait. If you're so convinced they're coming, fucking bring it on. Let's go. Have the courage to meet this with a plan. It just bothers me sometimes how you'll have these kids or these characters in these movies. They're just sitting around talking, and nobody is like prepared to handle the situation if it comes up. Nobody's even contemplating what they're going to do. Especially in like the third one, when all the actors are sitting around and they're trying to get who gets murdered next in the script and on the rewrites. The scene where the house blows up and nobody's got a kitchen knife sitting next to them. I would. Nobody's got a screwdriver in their pocket. Nobody's got a baseball bat by the door. Dewey has a gun, but he's like a protection guy or something to that effect in the movie. If I thought somebody was really coming after me and I was in a situation where we were just going to hang out at this house, I would be in a situation, I would place myself in the room in a spot where I could see all entrances, nobody can approach from behind me, and I'm going to be armed in some fashion, whether with a firearm, a stabbing implement, a blunt object, anything of the nature, the best that I can come up with. And then I'm going to be vigilant. I wonder how much you can push the envelope with that. How realistic could you make a horror movie and the characters' responses without totally ruining how it plays out? Do you ruin... Is the killer unable to gain any ground because of the fact that you don't have the protagonist do these kind of generic things and run and have it strung along? Is that almost built into it? Is that almost a necessity to be able to make a movie like this, that the characters can't handle it that straight up? Laurie does it actually in Halloween 2018, in a way. She's doing more of the wandering around kind of approach. It's more roundabout than what I would be doing. But she is prepared, and she does seek him out. And she handles it. She's prepared to face it head up because she knows that it's going to happen. There's no denial about it. So I guess I was kind of just describing the Laurie Strode character in the new 2018 Halloween movie, and maybe that is as realistic as you can play it out, and you just have to save that scene for the ending. And it would be difficult if you were convinced of it to let that person out of your sight. Like when she's watching him get escorted out of the facility into the bus, how do you not just follow the bus and then watch him out, exit and go into his next facility? It would be hard to not keep him under your thumb, keep your eye on him. That's the Godfather thing. Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. That's kind of my deal. I want them where I can see them. I want to know. I would rather have the awareness than the illusion of safety because you think you ran away. Does that make sense? Like, if you're standing 20 feet away from someone and they're going to try to come get you, is it really that difficult to evade them and keep them in your sight at the same time? I don't know. Granted, what's the end game? You would have to have some way that you're planning to resolve the situation ultimately by killing them, or if you're trying to get to the phone, I don't know what you're trying to do. But it's always been the thought in my head that I would like to keep my eye on them. I almost said the target, but in this situation, I'm supposed to be the target. Maybe I'll just never be the target. I don't fucking know. I'm rambling, but that has been a consistent thing that has popped up in my head. Like, why don't they keep an awareness of where the killer is? Why don't they try to have to use evasive maneuvers and have some type of a strategy that involves not... I'm not explaining this thoroughly. You take the shock and mystery out of it. You're not afraid that somebody's going to pop up around any corner if you know exactly where they are. And you can react to it much more effectively than you can if it's a surprise. That's basically what I'm saying. Like in Halloween 2, when Laurie runs out of the hospital, and then gets in the car and hides her head down. She took herself from a situation where she was pretty much in the open and would be able to see Michael approaching her from any direction well before he arrives. And instead, she crams herself into this car, which is a confined space, and hides her head so that she loses the perception of her surroundings for however long. So then by the time she raises her head back up, she has no clue what's happened around her in the meantime. And she has now lost the awareness of where Michael is in relationship to her. She has no idea if he came out of that door. She doesn't know any of that shit. And so now it's a surprise. Now you have to be scared looking around every corner. You don't have a direction you know you can go because you don't know where they are. If she comes out and she just stands in the middle of the parking lot and he starts walking towards her, she can go over to this side of the parking lot. He's got to walk to that side, and then you go over to this side of the parking lot. It would play out stupid, but it's the realistic solution in my head. Like I said it when I was doing that commentary, I would stand in the middle of a field if I could. Just stand in the middle of the field. Come and try to get me. You're not going to catch me. Not unless you're like some fucking elite world-class athlete level status. Then you might have a shot. Because it's not a straight-up head-up race. It's like almost like boxing footwork. They're coming directly at you, and you move to the side and change. Yeah. I was over at the door smoking a cigarette. I know somebody just died, but I didn't see who it was. I really wanted to care more about this movie than I do. I'm sorry, guys. I care most about the ending. That's really all I'm trying to get to is the ending. All this is just kind of bullshit to me leading up to it. I left my coffee over there, motherfucker. I'm gonna sneeze again. Oh, congratulations. The world media debut of the patented Devon double sneeze. That's kind of like a trademark around here. My wife laughs every time I sneeze that way. It happens more times than not. For some reason, I double chamber these sneezes, and they come out one right after the other consecutively. And I don't know that I've ever heard anybody else sneeze that rapid fire that quickly, that, you know, in that quick a succession with the interval between being so short. It's weird because I used to have like huge sneezes. I couldn't help it. It would just be this big, "Rah!" And then now it's turned more into the double sneeze that's quicker, and they're not quite as intense, but there's two of them. Man, the more I hear this voice on the phone, the more I don't like it. And I remember now why I was looking it up. I wanted to see if he was dead because I think I was watching a documentary about the first Scream, and the tone they were using when talking about him and like the tense that they were speaking in made it sound like he was dead. So I looked it up to see if he was dead, and that's when I found out that he wasn't in Scream 4, but he was alive. And then I was like, well, what the fuck? Did you not want to pay him? Did something happen to his voice? Did he not want to do it anymore? But he's giving her movie quizzes, like he's trying to recreate the opening scene from Scream 1 where Steve dies on the patio. I really wish that I could explain why these callback scenes seem so less significant than the callback scenes in Halloween. I know I talk about Halloween way too much. How can you blame me after all the fucking... after going through all 10 movies and all the content I absorbed, and then, you know, doing a little bit of research here and there, recording all the videos, it's just been on my brain so much in recent history that it's just what I keep recalling. But the callback scenes in Halloween aren't as boring feeling as they are in this. It's also a much smaller gap between them deciding to do it. They're trying to go with a sequel that's a reboot at the same time, but it's only been 15 years since the original. There was... Oh! It is this guy. So it really obviously seemed like it was this guy. In the first one, Randy even addresses that he would be a prime suspect if it was a real movie. And he turns out to never really be. And he's one of the beloved characters. But these guys were like the new Randy. So if you're going to represent him and he was already the model suspect, why not go that way? Man, and having him be the killer, if you still have Randy in the movie? Oh, shit. So, I guess they're not passing the torch to her as the new Sydney because she's the killer.
Taking care of. Good, my Robbie killer. Better than any mommy or with you.
Good, we'll cut up later. Make it all transfer to Trevor.
So, yep, I was right about him. He's not actually anything. He was just over the top for the purpose of being over the top. So the Culkin guys did a pretty good job because he's got almost a Billy performance where if you look back on it, it's pretty obvious. But at the time, you're questioning yourself when you think it's him.
Your protection.
So they pull a turn on us where we think that they're introducing this cousin to be the new Sydney character and carry on the mantle of the surviving girl. But they flip that on its head, and she is now the killer, and it's about trying to kill Sydney again. So it's a decent twist, but again, there's nowhere to go with it because you did not create a new lead girl. Ooh.
Keeping it the remake theme. Trevor's this generation's Billy Loomis. Really innocent victims, Sydney and Randy.
See, with you, the world just hurts.
He is the new Randy. I knew that.
See it. It's gonna be a worldwide sensation. And people gotta see this shit. It's not like anyone reads anymore. And then it's thing. It's never even dreamed of.
Not really, though.
This time Randy gets the girl.
Oh, I always said that I wanted Randy and Sydney to get together. But they're not supposed to be the killers. They're supposed to be the good guys. You see what I just did there? I didn't even know that this was going to happen. But remember I said Randy and Sydney should have gotten together. So in this scene, you could have the young, evil version of Randy and Sydney, and then the older, good version of Randy and Sydney. I would love to see how that played out. God damn it. Just gave myself wood thinking about how that scene could go. The argument that you could have back and forth between Randy and this kid. Oh, shit. That's right in the center of the chest. She doesn't want him to live.
Williams too. Trevor and you. Soul survivor.
So we went back to two killers again, but now it's double cross, and she's killing the partner. Which is surprising.
You and your friends. My friends? What world are you living in? I don't need friends. I need fans. Don't you get it? This has never been about
That kid seemed kind of small and frail to be an imposing ghost face, though, and be capable of the damage that the other ones were capable of. So in 3 out of the 4 movies, there are 2 killers working in tandem.
I mean, what am I supposed to do? Go to college?
And in 2 of them, 2 of the 3, they're a co-ed couple.
How do you think people become famous anymore? You don't have to achieve anything. You just gotta have
Which statistically, well, yeah, women are much less likely to commit violence than men.
new movie, new franchise. There's only room for one lead, and let's face it, your ingenue days are over.
Why isn't she attempting to do anything? She's just taking this?
Don't tell me you didn't know this, too.
She just sat there and let her do it? That seemed like a fake drop of the head. Now what's your plan? She's gonna try to make it look like this kid, like she's really trying to recreate the whole scene, and wants to replace Sydney as the survivor. Ow. She wants to be the victim and get the attention for it because she's jealous. It would take a much harder rip than that to pull that shit out of your head. The knife has to make a sound like it's being a sword being pulled out of a sheath every single time. So obviously this can't play out this way. Oh shit. Oh my god. I can't. I'm dying. The way it looked, that was like physical comedy to the max when she slammed into that glass. I'm sure it's supposed to be a serious moment. See, that plays way more serious than the face smash into the wall. She's kicking her own ass like liar, liar. This is fucked up. But as I was going to say before she smashed her face into that glass, there's no way that this is going to end with her actually succeeding in her plot, right? Is that where they were going to try to go with it? She survives, but she's also the killer? Who she's going to try to kill? Mr. Dewey. The whore! The pain! Oh, so the death that I missed was the kid who always wore the camera on his head. Sydney's gonna still be alive, and that's gonna be the ending. This girl, she needs at least 3 fresh pairs of underwear because she's gonna be creaming her pants for days off this shit. She's gonna wake up. If I had to guess, Dewey knows, and he's playing her, but I'm not sure.
Is your wife?
She's gonna be fun. She's
So we don't lose any pivotal characters at all again.
Be a good team with our acting wounds and all that. Survivors now.
So you have 4 survivors in the first one. Gail, Dewey, Randy, and Sydney.
they're not sure.
You kill Randy in the second one, which is maybe the second most important one besides Sydney. And then you don't kill another one of those 3 that are remaining at all.
We don't know.
If you think about TV shows that are the most powerful, some of the best ones ever, a lot of them kill off major core characters in shocking ways and really keep the audience on their feet. One that comes to mind off the top of my head is the first season of The Wire when Wallace dies. That was such an intense, shocking, and maddening, saddening moment. Or when Stringer finally gets it. I think that's season 3 or 4. When Stringer finally gets lit up and dies, and you're like, what the fuck? There's not going to be any more Stringer in The Wire? Like, how? But that's part of what makes it good. You can't predict it.
Be okay.
Yeah.
So Dewey doesn't know. He wasn't playing her.
He asked if you were okay. He thinks you guys should write a book together. If you're matching wounds.
She was stabbed in the shoulder. How did she know I was too?
Oh. He just figured it out. Dewey, not the sharpest.
You just won't die, will ya? Who are you, Michael fucking Myers?
What is this hospital and nobody saw you walk in there? There's no nurses or doctors or anything? And ever since the fucking scene in the house, Sydney has made so little attempt to defend herself. Even if your stomach is fucked up in a life or death situation, wrestling against the wall like that, you're gonna come up with something. Is that how you clear a room? You got bedpan to death, Dewey? Typical Dewey moment. Why don't you just call him Doofy at this point? Steer into that.
Of course I will. Do we?
What is this train wreck turning into? Ow. Solid tackle. Office linebacker style.
Give me your gun.
Oh, she still loved him at this point. You give me your gun.
Dad, give me your gun.
That female cop could have... could have put some pressure on this girl here. If you decide to turn your gun on her, she's either got to shoot you right then or turn and shoot Dewey very quickly. So you got shot anyway, and you didn't try to do anything.
Hey,
It's like how you're gonna die anyway. Might as well try to do something. Oh, more similar looking hair. What's he gonna do with those? You been thunderstruck. They're going for the most shocking ending.
Clear.
Oh, that was her. I thought it was Dewey. No, I didn't really care. Oh. So they came up with a more creative way to get there, but we still ended up with these three.
Right behind.
Or... yeah, and that's... the killer got a little farther in their second attempt before she shot him again. She's not going to follow up with the headshot in this one.
Nice one. Hicks, you're alive? Wear the nest. Save your chest.
That gets pulled out in so many movies. The surprise bulletproof vest after somebody gets shot.
We're live at Woodsboro Community Hospital, awaiting a first public statement from Jill Roberts, survivor. The Woodsboro Massacre reboot.
Jill Roberts is her name, the name the whole world will now know.
Single-handedly put a stop.
What? Do they not know yet?
Woodsboro killing spree. Jill Roberts of Woodsboro, a girl who's lifted all our spirits tonight, an American hero, right out of the movie.
Oh, they're still on the other narrative. They haven't found out the truth yet. I thought this was supposed to be like the next morning. I was getting confused. Wow, they managed to... Kevin Williamson wrote this? I think he didn't attempt to make it fresh enough. He tried to recreate what he'd already done before. If I had to guess. Maybe he's just out of shit. At this point, he'd been writing for a long time. And I sounded shocked when I said Wes Craven directed this, but it's not like he hasn't made subpar movies before. And it's not horrible. Again, it's not... It's somewhat fresh compared to Scream 3. It's definitely better than Scream 3. It's just not a lot to get excited about. And I feel like they jumped the gun on some of the nostalgia factor that they tried to go for. It was too much like a reboot way too soon. Emma Roberts, that's her name. And her name was Jill Roberts in the actual movie. So, that is Scream 4. We made it through the last couple treacherous films. This one was only treacherous because I didn't know what was going on through a lot of it. One, because I hadn't seen it a lot, and two, because I was talking. But we made it along our way. We found a path, nonetheless. I appreciate you sticking through it, watching on YouTube, listening to the podcast, however you're consuming this. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you want to follow more about me, you can find me on Instagram at Avarice Trading. That's AVARICE TRADING. Until the next time, this is Devin signing off and saying, be easy.